This is Rosen Institute's Your Law Firm, where Lee Rosen and Ned Days cover management, marketing, finance, and new technologies for building the practice you deserve. Here's Lee Rosen.
It's good to be with you today from Yerevan, Armenia, where we're wrapping up our time here. It's coming to an end. We came here from Azerbaijan, a country that has had a long history of conflict with Armenia. When we landed in Armenia, the border police, they immediately noticed our Azerbaijani passport stamps, and that led to some extra questions and a little bit of minor tension, but nothing serious. Having spent a month now in Armenia, exploring more of the country and interacting with its people, the tension is more pronounced. We can feel it. We are more sensitive to it. We are coming to understand it. The wounds here in Armenia, they are fresh, and the hostility toward Azerbaijan, it is plain to see. There's upset aiming in lots of different directions. And amidst all of this, there is a level of tension among these otherwise really kind and good-natured people that is just in the air. Last weekend, we went to a symphony performance outside in Independence Square. It was a big gathering. And the orchestra played We Are the Champions by Queen, and they played it with such enthusiasm, and they followed it with the song God Bless Armenia. And the crowd had been very subdued up to that moment. These are people who were raised in a former Soviet state, but the crowd went wild. The swell of national pride, they went crazy with enthusiasm after those songs. That feeling of national pride cut through the crowd. But this is a delicate moment in the history of this country, and it has been fascinating to get to know this place. I hope that Armenia stays stable for a long time so that others can experience the warmth of its people and the beauty of this place just as we have.
It's time for your tech tip. I have relayed the story of my audiobook productivity hack before, where I listened to 30-minute summaries of books on 3x speed and convinced myself that I had effectively read the book in 10 minutes. Now, the problems with that approach are obvious. How much of the book can you really squeeze into a 30-minute summary? And how much of said summary could I feasibly recall when listening at such a speed? The answer to both is not much. If you are a loser, the book-maxing kings and queens among you will have no doubt realized that the true problem with my approach was that those 30-minute summaries were just too long. What if the summaries themselves were only about 10 minutes? Then we would really be cooking with gas, and with the magic of AI, we can. SoBrief.com is a service that claims to offer summaries of a little over 73,000 books as of right now. It uses AI to turn boring old books into roughly 10-minute summaries that you can read, listen to, or read and listen to at the same time. How exactly do they get access to all those books, and is this actually legal? Well, now those are not the kind of questions I like to ask. You wouldn't want to look a gift horse in the mouth now, would you? But in all seriousness, I did find the summaries to be fairly useful. You pick the book and you can read the outline SoBrief has generated, or pick an AI voice and have it read to you at the speed of your choosing as it automatically scrolls through the text and highlights the section of the outline you are on. I listened to the summary of Freakonomics, which I read maybe 15 years ago, and it sounded like it hit the highlights from what I remember. It even threw in a few of the example stories. Whether or not any of that would have landed if I didn't have some latent memory of the full book from so long ago, I can't say. But in case I haven't stressed it enough, at 2x the summary took me 5 minutes to listen to. How can that possibly not be a good deal? The ROI speaks for itself. Interested in seeing how it handles fiction, I listened to the summary for American Psycho. My experience with this novel consists of about 30 minutes of the movie I saw on television 20 years ago, and Patrick Bateman memes shared by 16-year-old sociopaths on Telegram. I'd say the SoBrief summary landed somewhere in between the two of those as far as usefulness and communicating the plot and themes of the original work. In reality, how useful these summaries are going to be depends on whether you have read the book before and what you are actually looking for. You obviously won't get the linguistic flourishes of Nabokov or the satirical panache of Twain, but if you just need the highlights from a memoir or a bullet point list of the topics covered in the latest pop-sci bestseller, I don't think it's that bad a tool. And as much as I prefer to listen, it's the text outlines where I think SoBrief really shines. They are well-formatted summaries with headings, bullet lists of important points, and a pull-quote recap to illustrate the main point of each section or chapter. If you want to save it for later, there's a button to easily download it as a PDF or EPUB. You also get a convenient sidebar with a table of contents for the summary and a list of characters and thematic elements if applicable. Supposedly, there is a free plan that lets you listen to the summaries. I couldn't get that to work. I had to sign up for the 7-day free trial. After the trial, the pricing is $10 per month, $45 per year, or $80 for a lifetime membership. Lifetime, of course, being the lifetime of this service, or frankly, whatever they determine it to be, not your lifetime, because who knows how long a tool like this will be around. But while it is certainly an interesting proposition. No, it won't replace actually reading the entire book, but it's not a bad way to keep up with what others are reading, get a quick recap of what you've read, and hear the highlights of books you maybe should have read without too big a commitment. Now, if you will excuse me, I need to go spend the next 6.5 days listening to 10-minute summaries of New York Times bestsellers at 2x speed so that I can pretend to be the smartest person at my wife's work Christmas party. I'm Ned Days, and that's your tech tip.
And now for your moment of concise advice. I was in my early 30s when I sat down for an initial consultation with a guy who had built a software company that was so incredibly successful that Microsoft was pursuing him for an acquisition. He had 1,000 employees. He flew around the world every week. He was the kind of person that you would expect to see on the cover of a business magazine. So why was he sitting in my office, looking across the desk at me, asking me for help with his divorce? How in the world had he ended up with me? How had he picked me? How had this happened? Well, I was sitting there running through every possible reason why I didn't belong in that room. I felt like I was an impostor. Was I qualified enough? Did I know enough? Could I handle a case as big as his? Did I even know how to talk to this guy? I will tell you, it was intimidating, and I questioned whether I could ever belong in the same world as this guy. But there I was, face to face with him, and I had to, at least for the moment, act like I belonged. I think we've all been there in one way or another. We've all found ourselves in that room with that creeping doubt, that nagging voice in your head saying that you don't deserve to be at the table. That voice, it's damaging. It can be debilitating. But I wonder, what if instead of letting that voice, what if instead of letting it paralyze you, you could somehow channel that imposter syndrome into something productive? What if, rather than seeing that feeling of being an imposter as a weakness, what if you recognized it as an untapped energy source? What if somehow those feelings could be channeled into something positive? You know, imposter syndrome, it just feels like it's supposed to be a negative. It feels like it's dragging you down, it's holding you back, it's getting in your way. But what if it could be a positive instead of a negative? I think there's a better way. I think that imposter syndrome, it can be used to push you to show up better, to be sharper, to be more prepared. You can turn imposter syndrome into a force for good. The next time you're feeling that wave of doubt, what if you treat it differently? Instead of fighting it off, instead of talking yourself out of it, don't resist it. Use it. Use it as fuel. Make the imposter syndrome the reason that you prepare more thoroughly and that you ask tougher questions, that you dive deeper into the details. That sort of anxiety, it doesn't have to be a sign that you're not good enough. It can be a sign that you care enough to want to do it right, to get it right, to do the right thing for your client. You can use those feelings to make yourself perform. You can turn those feelings around to make yourself perform at a higher level. I have felt that doubt countless times, but at some point I decided to start treating it differently. I leaned into it. I prepared more. I asked harder questions. I dug deeper. And that energy, that allowed me to deliver better results. Imposter syndrome is, as you well know, it's all in your head. It's right there for most of us, and it sits there waiting to get in your way. But you can use it. You can let it drive you to be more educated, more prepared, more fully on your game. Watching myself and others deal with imposter syndrome, I've learned some things. I've learned that your clients, they choose you for a reason. They see things that we don't always see in ourselves. So when you feel that doubt, remind yourself of the clients who have kept coming back to you. They see your value even when you don't see your value. If you need to, write it down. Keep a list of your wins. Keep a list of the clients you've helped, the positive outcomes that you've achieved. Keep your own winning scoreboard for yourself. Every time that little voice whispers, you don't belong, well, look at that list and remind yourself of the impact that you've already made on so many clients. Let your track record be your proof for yourself. And that anxiety, when you feel it, turn it inside out. Turn your anxiety into anticipation. When you feel your heart racing before a big meeting, when those feelings come flooding in, recognize it for what it is. It's excitement. You're on the verge of doing something that's important, that matters. So lean into that energy, relabel it, reset it. Let the excitement power you up to deliver for your clients. Finally, use the people in your life who know your value. Go beyond your clients. Look at your mentors and your colleagues and your friends. When you're feeling that doubt, when it's hitting hard, call up a mentor or a colleague. You'll often find that what you perceive as a weakness is seen by others as a strength. Get that feedback from the people in your world. So stop letting imposter syndrome drain you. Use it to your benefit. Channel it into better preparation, into sharper focus, into deeper relationships. Turn that energy, that anxiety, turn it into excitement. Let it power you forward. Pretty soon, you'll realize that you've earned your place in every room that you walked into. They picked you because you deserve to be picked. That's your moment of concise advice. Wrapping up from Yerevan, thanks for spending a few minutes with me and Ned today. We hope you have a great weekend and an even better week next week. Keep plugging away, moving forward, and getting things done. You're on the right track. You'll get there, I promise. We're all in this together, and together we build better practices through better marketing, better management, and better technology. Until next time, I'm Lee Rosen.
Thanks for listening to Your Law Firm. Subscribe to the Friday File at roseninstitute.com and join thousands of lawyers focused on working on, instead of in their practices. You'll find safe, successful, actionable approaches for transforming your firm. Sign up for free at roseninstitute.com.